Hello, I am Jan Runkle, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area. I'm here today with candidates running for the Fairborn City School Board. The candidates are Stephanie Webb, Jerry Browning, Susan Heber, Wendy Landon, Pat McCourt, and Ellen Slow-Farthing. Susan Heber, Wendy Landon, Ellen Stone, and Pat McCourt are unable to join us today due to prior commitments. We will start, however, our interviews by giving the candidates 1 minute to tell about themselves and why they want to serve on the Fairborn City School Board. And Stephanie will let you begin with that question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Stephanie Webb. I have been on the Fairborn School Board before, and I have retired from working for Fairborn City Schools. And I had enjoyed being on the school board previously very, very much. So I decided that I would like to run again and serve my community and serve the students of Fairborn. And that's really my only reason. I have a granddaughter at the high school and I have a great grandson in our primary building here in Fairborn. And that kind of interests me too. So longtime supporter and would just like to be considered for the position.
And then Jerry?
Right.
Why do you want to serve on the Fairborn City School Board?
Well, I'm currently on the school board in Fairborn. I'm a lifelong resident of Fairborn. My wife and I both went through Fairborn. Both of our kids went through Fairborn. Like I said, I'm on the board now. I've been on for 8 years. Currently board president the last 2 years. And there's a lot of things that we've done in the last 8 years, both academically and from a technology and from a building standpoint. We're currently finishing the new high school in Fairborn. It'll be ready in May. And we just got word from the state that we can start in January on the new middle school, which will be the 4th of 4 buildings that we're building. So very interested in seeing that to completion. And then also we've got some things to make up once we went through COVID. That set a lot of school districts back in terms of academics and social skills. And we're putting a lot of things in place to try to address that. So obviously would like to see that finished also.
I'll ask each of you the same questions. You'll have 2 minutes to speak to each of these questions, and then I'll move on to the next candidate and give them 2 minutes to respond as well. And the first question we'll start with you, Jerry. Describe the role of a school board member as you see it.
Okay. The first thing is we're really policymakers and also looking at the what I would call the attitude of the community. How does the community feel about what we're doing? We do not run the day-to-day operations. We have to be very careful not to do that. That's up to the superintendent and treasurer. But that being said, we need to listen to our students. We need to listen to our staff. We need to listen to members of the community and make sure that what we're doing is in the best interest of everybody involved. How do we do that? One of them is be available, be approachable. Like in my case, I'm out at a lot of events, student events and community events, and really making sure people feel comfortable with walking up and talking and sharing their concerns. And then once you talk with them and, then, our what we're supposed to do is to go back to the superintendent and treasurer and work with them. And but we also need to give feedback to the person that expressed a concern. We know that we won't always do exactly what they want, but what I found out is if you take the time to talk to people about your logic, sometimes you actually come up to a solution that both can agree on that was different than what we thought at the beginning. So, quick summary: make policy, don't do the day-to-day, but make sure we really are listening to the community in terms of what we're driving within our district.
All right, thank you. Stephanie, how would you describe the role of a school board member as you see it?
I agree with Mr. Browning wholeheartedly. Our jobs as school board members are to be the conduit between the community, superintendent, treasurer, and the administrative staff. It is not our job to micromanage any part of the day-to-day business of Fairborn City Schools. Our only hire is the treasurer and the superintendent. And as such, you need to hire the best possible people that you can and trust them to run the district as you want it run. The community plays a big part in this because they have many, many ideas that don't really always coexist with what is actually happening in the buildings. And they come to you and mostly they just want to vent. They just want to tell you their side of the story. And Jerry is right. The oftentimes the problem isn't really the problem they begin to talk to you about, and you listen, say what you can, go to your superintendent, and then in an appropriate amount of time, get back to that citizen who had a concern. That's the best thing. You always have to follow up and get back to that person who has the concern. In the past, we haven't always done that, and I mean way past. And I think you can always improve on how you communicate with your citizens that live and vote in the school district.
Thank you. And Stephanie, we'll let you continue with the second question, be the first to respond. As a school board member, how will you address parents' concerns?
In the past, when I was on school board for 8 years, I always did the same thing. I listened, let them say whatever they needed to say, and went to my superintendent and told him exactly what I was told. And oftentimes I would, especially if it was somebody I knew, which oftentimes it was, we would get together with a phone call or maybe run into them in Kroger, which happens a lot, and talk it through. So really, I would just lean on my superintendent to take care of the problem, or the principal of the building, whatever the problem is. So just listen, communicate, and try and understand their side of the story.
And Jerry, as a school board member, how will you address parents' concerns?
Right. Yeah, I touched on that a little bit in the first question, but it's making sure you're available to people, that you're approachable and you're listening. And you really have to work through the superintendent and treasurer or the leadership, like Stephanie said. But the thing that I've found out at times is there's two different stories a lot of times. And the action that the school district takes is based on one part of the story. So you really have to get to an agreed upon story as you start driving to a solution. Whether that's an issue within a building, with its athletics or those types of things. And, it's listening, it's following up with people to make sure that you've also reached a solution. What I found out a lot of times is if somebody talks to you, if they don't hear back, their assumption is nothing happened. And you really have to follow up with them, make sure they understood what happened, the logic of why something happened. And there's been a number of cases where I might be involved in a meeting between, say, a parent and the superintendent. I don't facilitate the meeting, or we want them handling the issue between themselves as a board member. But part of my responsibility is to make sure that something happens, that it doesn't fall through the cracks and the person's unhappy with what happened, if that makes sense. It's a lot about listening to people, because you know, like I said, there's typically two stories, and it's a matter of kind of compromising on what the real facts of the situation were.
Okay, thank you. And then Jerry, what do you see as the most important issues facing your school district?
Uh, Probably, and I'm gonna go back just a little bit. I know there's a short window here, but 8 years ago, it would have been trust with the community, the school district, and with our employees and those types of things. There were a lot of things going on. Over the last 8 years, when we've been able to address that, you know, things are never perfect, but the trust with the community and employees are much better than what it used to be. Then I would have told you it was technology in our buildings. We've been able to go one-to-one on Chromebooks over the last few years, and we've got the 4 new buildings being built where Fairborn would have the newest buildings in the Miami Valley, and that also addresses technology issues. Now I would say it's issues around setbacks from COVID, because if you looked at our report cards, they were improving. There was a setback related to COVID with all the distance learning and those types of things, and also social skills. It's amazing the impact that social skills had on the students. So it's really getting back to how do we close the gap, and we put things in place with additional coaches for teachers and kids and those types of things to try to close the gap on the academic side of it. And then on the social skill side of it, it's one thing we figured out is it's amazing how cell phones and social media have an impact on how kids behave and how they behave towards each other and how they get mad at each other. So there's some things we've put in place this year to try to address that, you know, to get away from all of the aggression and those types of things that the kids have towards each other, and get them back on focusing on academics. So the short answer is right now it's academics and really social skills, and both of those were caused by setbacks from COVID.
All right. Then Stephanie, what do you see as the most important issues facing your school district?
I would have to agree with Mr. Browning. I believe that the setbacks from COVID that he just discussed are the biggest hurdle that we have to get over. Kids need a lot of help. Our kids are great kids, but the COVID years have just turned everything topsy-turvy, and now we've got to get them back into the structure of coming to school every day, because attendance is always and has always been a huge problem. And so it's just, and some of the things that we need to do are being done. I'm still very active at the middle school here in Fairborn, and I can see pockets of progress, albeit maybe a little small, but every day is another step. The COVID years have just hurt kids in many, many ways, social skills especially. And it's going to take a while to get back there, but we will. We have a great staff in Fairborn. They're just great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't mean to interrupt, so if you have more to say, let me know.
Oh, no, I was just going to say we have a great staff, and they work every day to address some of the problems. I'm active with it's called PBIS at the middle school. It's all about positive behavior, and we do a great job, and as does the staff in the district. So we're headed in the right direction. We just gotta keep going.
All right, and then Stephanie, in closing, would you just give a closing statement about being a school board member?
I guess my closing statement would be that I came to Fairborn with an Air Force family. My husband has lived in Fairborn all his life, and I really love Fairborn, and I enjoy the school district. As I said, very active in the middle school, and I think we have a lot of good things to look forward to. And I think that I would really, really like to be part of that, to make things better, to help kids and help the whole community. Thank you.
And then Jerry, what would your closing statement be?
Okay. Yeah, obviously, I'm interested in staying on the school board for the next 4 years. I've been there for 8 years, and like I said, I've been the board president the last 2. And I think we've accomplished a lot in the last 8 years. I touched on the whole relationship issues with the community and our staff, along with the community supported us greatly on the buildings. There's 2 bonds that were passed related to the buildings, and so we're building those. And the next steps are fixing, what we went through from COVID, the academics and the social skills. I think we've got good things in place. I'm very interested in staying to be able to complete those versus stepping out right now. And so I'd like to finish the buildings, finish the work on academics with our staff and students, and then also do what we can on the social side in terms of relationships of kids with each other. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for your participation today. Good luck in your campaigns. The League of Women Voters encourages all candidates to run an issues-oriented campaign. Our goal is to educate the voting public and strengthen our elective political process. The annual Voters Guide will be distributed mid-October in the Dayton Daily News, AIM Media, suburban newspapers, and at local libraries, schools, and businesses. Early voting for the upcoming election begins October 11th at your Board of Elections, or you can request an absentee ballot. However you decide to vote, your opinion matters and helps make our democracy work. Thank you.